Hey, everybody. Well, first, I've got to say thank you to the LGBT Community Center for putting this together. I don't think we can, understate how much they've done here in a year's time, and just a little over that time frame, to be not only having an active center, but on top of that, to be putting together a Pride event, and to do it in Darke County. That's a pretty good undertaking, and I am so proud to see everything they do. Every time I talk to somebody, I'm like, this is the place you need to check out to see how to do it and how to make it happen. So I'm not going to be your thankfully you have entertainment. I won't be much of an entertainer unless you really, really like sarcasm, and if you do that, then I've got you covered. But what I want to talk about today is we are now reaching that point of 56 years since Stonewall, and for a lot of us, we still have those names that we've got to commit to memory and remember that have paved the way for us. People like Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, Stormy, Miss Major, all of these people who have done so much for our community over the years, and their names 56 years later, we still remember. And so I want to talk a little bit about Stonewall, about the movement at that time frame, because I think sometimes we don't really dig in to what actually happened. So Stonewall was not this wonderful bar that was wonderful and accepting and pleasant. It was a complete and total dive, ran by the mob. The only reason that it was popular with our community because it was the one place they could go. And so they were regularly raided by the police, who were also paid off by the mob at that time in New York. And one night, unscheduled, unplanned, a raid happened at Stonewall. And normally they would go in, and who did they go after first? Well, they'd go after the easy targets, which were the drag queens, which were the trans people, because they could get for cross-dressing laws and easily harass them. A lot of the other people, they'd take your ID, they'd send you out front, people would exit and normally go about their way. But something was different that night in 1969, because when the crowd started exiting, this time they didn't leave. They stood outside of Stonewall, and then they celebrated the people who were coming out. And then they decided that enough was enough. See, Stonewall was a breaking point for a reason, and that reason was all of the time the gay rights movement, the LGBT movement, we had been focused on trying to convince those outside of our community to see our worth, to see our value. Stonewall was different. It was different because on that night, they weren't asking anyone to see their value. They were seeing their own value and standing up for it and fighting back. And that's why we still know those names today of people who were involved in the movement. Now, I don't think it takes a whole lot to look around the state of Ohio and other places and see that this is not a great moment for LGBT people in our state or in our country. And the honest fact is it's not going to be probably a great moment for a while. We're going to have a lot of fights ahead. And a lot of those fights are going to seem completely and totally unwinnable. But see, here's the thing, even about the night at Stonewall, when they started throwing things, because it wasn't always a brick, there were shot glasses and everything else, but when they started throwing things, they did not think that their action was going to result in them winning. They weren't fighting the battle to win. They had every reason to believe they were probably going to lose that battle because they were coming up against the entire state of New York. But it didn't stop them from fighting anyway, because it was worth understanding from their mind and the mind that we have to have that sometimes it's not just about winning. Sometimes the fight itself is worth fighting. I know that all too well because I have ran in elections that I had no chance of winning. But in every single one of those, I got the opportunity to come out and meet people, and a lot of people who had never met a trans person before, who were able to believe all of the horrible stories about us, got to meet me, got to see that it wasn't true, got to see that hating me for being trans was kind of a stupid thing because I could give them a whole list of other reasons to hate me. I'm still working on the list. But it's about visibility and getting out there. So I encourage every one of you, when you look at the battles ahead, this is going to be a time for us to build community together. This is going to be a time for us to stand up. This is going to be a time where we have to make it very clear. We're not compromising, we're not accepting less than we deserve. And what we deserve as LGBT people is every single right afforded to everyone else in our country. And it also means approaching those battles that look hopeless and that look like they're lost as a joyful warrior. Understanding that we have one thing that the people attacking us will never, ever have. Something worth fighting for. So I encourage you and I ask you to think at every issue that's coming forward, whether it's a protest, whether you're coming out to events like this, 56 years later, and we remember the names of Marsha P. Johnson. We remember the name Sylvia Rivera. I want you to ask yourself in 50 more years, when this stage of our battle, of our fight for equality and civil rights has went 50 more years and they're still remembering Sylvia and Marsha, what other names are going to be on the list? Will it be yours? Will you be a person who stood up in hopeless, seemingly hopeless circumstances and said, we're not going to accept less than what we deserve? We're going to keep on fighting. We're going to keep on speaking out. We're going to be visible. We're going to support those within our community that can't, that don't have the privilege of being able to be out front. And if you're allies, you're not directly part of the community, but you're an ally of understanding that you're going to be there right alongside us, battling with us, not for us all the time, but with us. You're going to enhance LGBT voices, and we're going to continue to speak up. Because Stonewall was a moment in history, but the idea of Stonewall, the rebellion, the uprising, the absolute determination to never accept less, that's not a moment in time. That's moving. That's something that we all have to rededicate ourselves to at every single battle. Whether it's a drag ban, and let's just say very openly, we are not going to let an Ohio drag ban pass. We are going to keep fighting no matter what. Whether it's the gender-affirming care bans that they want to pass to attack our trans community and our trans youth, we are going to continue to fight for the youth. And we are not going to give up on our home state here in Ohio, because it does not have to be this way. Ohio is not a lost cause. We refuse to accept that. We are going to continue fighting. And when Ohio has its Stonewall moment, its moment of people speaking up, we are going to be the names that are going to be beside that movement in history as people who did not back down, who led with love and compassion and the ferocity to never accept less. So I encourage all of you, as you're going out there enjoying the event, ask yourself, what can I do for this moment and this movement? Can I attend a few more protests and speak out? Can I write a few more legislators? Send them an email. Can I get involved in the community center if I'm not already? We need one another during this time, so please make sure you're reaching out, helping one another. And in the great scheme of things, here's the important message. No matter how bad it seems right now, we will win. You know, Dr. King talked about the moral arc of the universe bending towards justice, and that's true, but it doesn't bend on its own. Sometimes we got to be there hanging on the end of it and pulling it down. And that's what we're going to do. So thank you all for being out here today, and keep that activist spirit in everything you do. Have a good one.